Russia moving forces closer to the border. President Biden's national security advisor warning that Vladimir Putin is in a position to act aggressively against Ukraine at any time. But high-level diplomacy is also underway. French President Emmanuel Macron heading to Moscow to meet with Putin, hoping to avoid a new European war. Senior national correspondent Terry Moran has the latest from Ukraine.
Overnight, French President Emmanuel Macron heading to Moscow to meet with Vladimir Putin as Russia mobilizes more troops even closer to Ukraine's border. Macron telling reporters before leaving Paris it's essential to stop the situation deteriorating. U.S. officials estimate that Russia now has in place 70% of the forces needed for a full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Satellite images show Moscow's military massing in neighboring Belarus. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan warning that there is a, quote, very distinct possibility that Putin will order an attack on Ukraine.
It could take a number of different forms. It could happen as soon as tomorrow, or it could take some weeks yet. He has put himself in a position with military deployments to be able to act aggressively against Ukraine at any time now.
But intelligence agencies in the U.S. and NATO allies assess that Putin has not made a final decision on an invasion, and Russia denies any intention to attack. The Russian military released video showing drills alongside troops from Belarus, which they say are part of scheduled war games, including tanks and heavy mobile missile launchers, and even long-range nuclear-capable bombers flying over Belarus. And in the Black Sea, Russia has up to 30 ships at the ready, including 5 amphibious assault ships that could be used for beach landing. For years, Vladimir Putin has poured money into the Russian military, which was once crumbling, seeking to reassert Russian dominance in the region.
This is a military that's backed by a lot of firepower, a lot of air power, naval power. The Russian Navy is gathering in the Mediterranean. It's very different from sort of the past remembrances of poor Russian military performance in the 90s.
Over the weekend, U.S. troops arrived in Eastern Europe to reinforce NATO, and more U.S. military equipment arrived in Ukraine as the window for diplomacy narrows.
And Terry is joining me now live from Kyiv with more. Terry, it appears Russia is entering a final phase here if it intends to launch a major attack. What can you tell us?
It does, Kira. It certainly looks like Vladimir Putin has ordered his military to put all the pieces in place for a variety of options, ranging from just intimidation to get what he wants diplomatically to a full-scale invasion. He will decide at some point. What you can see today is the intensity of both the diplomatic and military activity is accelerating right now, with Macron in the Kremlin as we speak, trying to find some way out. He has said that Russia has legitimate security concerns, and he's also said the situation must be stopped from deteriorating any further. So he is trying to play the broker's role there. But Russia continues to build up forces, adding troops and forces in neighboring Belarus, surrounding Ukraine. At sea, in the Black Sea, 30 ships, including 5 amphibious warships, as I mentioned, ready to pursue action from that front. And here in Ukraine, you get the sense that while people do not share the same dire assessment that the Pentagon has, that Putin could invade at any time, there is a growing sense. This is not the usual Russian shenanigans or worse. Remember, they have lived with Russian aggression in the east of their country for years now. 14,000 people have been killed in the fighting in eastern Ukraine against Russian-backed separatists. They know that one way or another, Vladimir Putin clearly wants this to be a decisive moment to get what he wants. The problem? Getting what he wants in any way, whether Macron can find a deal or Biden or anyone, getting what he wants requires some kind of sacrifice of Ukrainian sovereignty. Either land in eastern Ukraine or they'll never join NATO. Their freedom of choice will be limited. And that's something I think there would be a widespread resentment of and opposition if their government went down that path.
So how could President Macron impact this, as you said, broker role that he is playing now? What is it that he could say? What could he do to impact these talks? And of course, Putin.
Well, the first thing is Macron has to gain the confidence of Putin, and it does seem like he's got that. Putin apparently called him a serious interlocutor, somebody who will listen. That's partly because Macron begins from a position of respect with Vladimir Putin. He says, I get it. He says there are legitimate Russian security concerns, that the expansion of NATO eastward really unsettled certainly Vladimir Putin's sense of Russia's security needs and strategic interests. And so perhaps there's something around that that could be done, a recognition by NATO that while Ukraine has freedom of choice, there's no prospect of Ukraine joining NATO in the near future. But they have to be very careful because President Biden is determined that there will be no deal with Putin that recognizes the old Iron Curtain, that recognizes there's a sphere of Russian influence that the people, the 100 million people who live in what used to be behind the Iron Curtain, these free nations now of Ukraine and Poland and the Baltic countries and Romania and all the rest, that they will not have their freedom of movement, their security interests traded in order to keep the peace with Putin. So it's a hard thing for Macron to do. And as I say, the people here, people don't remember that in 1991, Ukrainians voted by a margin of 9-1 to get out of the Soviet Union. They've been ruled by Moscow. They don't want to go back.
Meanwhile, more U.S. assets coming into the region. Terry Moran in Ukraine for us. Terry, we're going to talk a lot today. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.